How is one supposed to keep their humanity when they are constantly being looked over by society? The mentality is to not give those in prison a chance. They do not get a chance to change, grow, and prosper because we do not see them as equal. The chains that we envision to be wrapped around their wrists and ankles are really wrapped around their souls, constantly reminding them that instead of presents, they will receive coal for the rest of their lives due to one mistake. One mistake that will take ownership of their name and result in them being stripped of the one thing they thought could never be stolen: their identities. Our visits to the Indiana Reentry Educational Facility, or IREF for short, have changed me into the woman I am today. Over the past few months, I've grown extensively in all my classes and as a person as well. We first attended IREF at Bridge, and from the start, I have loved going to the facility. In criminal justice, we learned about cops, courts, and corrections. We learned what was going on in the prisons and got to experience everything hands-on. In speech, we learned how to properly speak, and we implemented these skills at IREF, talking to the residents. In V100, we learned about personal growth and reflection, and after being with all types of men that we would not typically associate with, we grew empathetically and matured. In J101, we learned all about implicit bias, which are bias from society, but we do not know that we have them. Implicit bias lead to stereotypes, which lead to problems in law enforcement. One particular IREF visit focused on spontaneity, and one of the residents, Steve, and my classmate pretended to be a corrupt veteran officer and a new rookie officer. We learned in class that there's a blue curtain within officers, and it is hard to say something because of the brothership that they have. Steve racial profiled the suspect even though they were doing nothing wrong because of implicit bias, and the suspect was Mexican. This demonstration was hilarious, but when you take away the comedic entities, scenarios such as this one happen all the time with cops now. In J101, we also learned about the detrimental effects of corrections. We heard my favorite speech from Greg the first week of IREF about the maltreatment in prisons. Since he was 14, he has been in the adult prison system and experienced it all. He was waived to the adult courts as a 14-year-old, which is awful because, like we learned in J101, it's important that juveniles receive treatment. That is treatment rather than punishment because their brains are not fully developed yet. Greg was waived to the adult courts because he committed a Class A felony, murder. In speech, I've had the privilege to fully overcome my fear of public speaking. I had the chance to give a speech at an IREF visit, and this changed my whole outlook on the public speaking. If I could give a speech at a prison and not feel nervous, I realized that I could speak anywhere. I gave a speech over drones that was an informal speech. I have also been emphasized the importance of walking for a purpose at the meetings. This is ideal in public speaking because you want to walk and stop during your main points. I've heard so many interesting speeches that will stick with me for the rest of my life. Greg's speech was my favorite, like stated before, because of his emphasis on words he used and his usage of ethos and pathos. We learned in speech that your speeches should contain some pathos, but mostly ethos and logos. I learned from all the speakers as well as Greg. Many of them are highly intelligent and use sophisticated words that add to their credibility. We learned in R110 that maintaining the credibility in speeches is key because then the audience will take you seriously. I came in thinking that the residents would not be nearly as competent as they were in regards to public speaking. In V100, we deal with reflection. After looking back on the past few months, I realized that I have grown in terms of diversity, leadership, and maturity. I have heard insights and built relationships with residents at a reentry facility, and when you compile more views, you grow as a person. In terms of leadership, I've learned about emotional intelligence in organizations. Emotional intelligence is crucial to improve efficiency and relate to your workers to build an excellent work environment and take away the guerrilla government, which causes dissonance in the organization. I have gained emotional intelligence by becoming more empathetic and understanding and assessing the latitude of problems. Emotional intelligence is key in leadership because this implements truly caring and investing time in the field of work. I have improved in this area as well because I have invested my time into the residents. I have matured and will be a major threat in the work field because of my resume that will say I have done work at a re-entry facility. This opportunity is extremely rare to experience, and I'm so blessed that I've been able to because of the opportunities it will help me achieve later on. I have also matured in my family structure. After learning at IREF and taking what I have learned in J101 to real scenarios, my family has been able to see a feasible growth in my communication abilities. The most important lesson I've learned is that although the residents have committed an offense, they're still people, and the world needs to treat them as such.